The ceremony to mark the Wibree Forum and Bluetooth SIG merger took place in central London. Incisor was invited to cover the event and can now deliver this unique insight. Here inside the launch venue, I'm talking to Harry Tullima from Nokia and to Mike Foley and Anders Edlund from the Bluetooth Special Interest Group. Mike, let's start by looking at this from the Bluetooth SIG's perspective. Wibree is being merged into the Bluetooth spec rather than being referenced as happened with Y-Media. This is fairly unusual in the standards arena. Could you explain the thinking for us?
It is a bit unusual for two organizations to merge rather than simply one referencing the spec that the other publishes. However, with Wibree and Bluetooth, we thought the situation was a bit unique and that we could provide the best solution by providing a very tight integration of the specifications. This allows people to reuse the work that they've already put in developing the Bluetooth profiles and ones that are applicable to have those run over the ultra-low power radio when we adopt that specification.
And did you consider other options?
Sure. We considered referencing the specifications. We considered using the existing Bluetooth technology and optimizing that. Those were mainly the other options that we looked at, but we did determine that the best solution and the quickest time to market was to leverage the work that had already been done in the Wibree Forum and bring that into the Bluetooth SIG and, again, give a very tight integration of those specifications.
How significant is the alignment with Wibree in the SIG's roadmap?
I think this alignment with Wibree is significant in a number of ways and reasons. First, it enables a whole new class of applications to be provided by the Bluetooth family of specifications. Second, it allows members to leverage a lot of the time and effort and work they've already put into the Bluetooth SIG. They'll be able to reuse applicable profiles. They'll be able to qualify products using the tools and programs that the Bluetooth SIG has already established. And third, these specifications are going to be adopted as Bluetooth SIG specifications, meaning when members do qualify them, they'll get the license royalty-free to the underlying technology. And then finally, there are just some practical reasons why it makes sense. If two different organizations were publishing the specifications over time, you'd run the risk that they may get out of sync or go in different directions. When they're both maintained and enhanced by the same organization, that won't occur. They'll continue to evolve together.
Anders, perhaps you can talk us through some of the applications that you see for this combined Bluetooth and Wibree technology.
Yes, I can, and maybe I should start then with the application which is my personal favorite, which is the watch. I think that's an area where we haven't seen much deployment of Bluetooth so far, and I think it's extremely interesting for the future. It could possibly also be called the remote display for the mobile phone, for other personal devices. I think that's going to be a very important one. Areas like health and fitness is growing quite rapidly, so sensors for health and fitness applications, maybe heart rate monitors, things like that, that you strap on your chest. And another growing and very interesting area is medical applications, elderly care, again monitoring status of the human being basically and connecting to the mobile phone and then transmitting to a doctor's office or a center that care for the elderly. I think, there are many others, but I think those are probably some of the key applications.
When Bluetooth linked with Y-Media, the intention seemed to be that there would be no references to the underlying ultra-wideband technology, only to high-speed Bluetooth. Will the Wibree band disappear? And if so, how will this ultra-low power technology be branded under the Bluetooth umbrella?
We haven't finally decided that. Our current thinking is that Wibree will not be publicly known or known to the consumer. So currently thinking is that we will expand on our experience icon concept to make it very easy and straightforward for the consumer to understand what capability the devices have, rather than having to understand exactly what technology is in different device types.
Perhaps you can explain how the integration will happen at spec level.
Sure, and there's actually a couple of parts to it. There's the radio specification as well as the profile specification. The radio spec, I believe, will be published as another volume to the Bluetooth specifications. And then the profiles, I envision that they'll be published as enhancements to the existing profiles, where there are existing profiles, such as the HID for mice and keyboards. I envision that there'll be an extension for ultra-low power. For new use cases, there'll be a new profile published. An example of that is the remote display, how, say, a mobile phone could display information on the watch. So that would be a new use case that we don't currently have within Bluetooth, so that would be a new specification.
Which working groups will be affected, and what's your estimate for the timescale to integrate Wibree into the Bluetooth spec?
We look to have 5 work groups affected, 2 new ones created, and 3 their scope expanded to handle ultra-low power. The new work groups are a new ultra-low power work group. They're the ones that will develop the core, the radio, the probably Mac as well, and then a remote display work group. We really don't have a work group within the SIG that's working on protocol or technology that allows one device to display information on a second device. And so we'll create a work group to create that use case. Then 3 work groups that are currently existing in the Bluetooth SIG, we've expanded their scope such that they can run their applications over the new ultra-low power radio. That is the automation work group for sensor-type devices, the HID work group for mice, keyboard-type devices, as well as the medical work group for medical devices.
Will the Bluetooth SIG promote solutions that offer standalone Wibree, or only solutions that combine what we know as classic Bluetooth but with added Wibree functionality?
We look at 2 types of devices that will utilize the ultra-low power technology. One is a standalone device. That would be the watch, the sensor type device that can only speak the ultra-low power language. The second class of device is what we call a dual mode device. That will probably be the mobile phone, a PC, devices like that. And that can speak the traditional Bluetooth, the scenarios that we're all used to today, as well as the ultra-low power. And the Bluetooth SIG will publish the specifications for both those type devices and run the qualification program and promote both types of devices as well.
Can you quantify the power consumption of an ultra-low power device by comparison with classic Bluetooth?
Well, today we're going a bit on the theoretical aspect of that, as we don't have devices to actually measure yet, and it will be very much dependent on the use case, what the devices need to do, how often they have to transfer data. But with all the disclaimers given, we think on the optimistic side, for some use cases, you'll be down as low as 10% of a traditional Bluetooth radio. And in other applications that need to transfer more data, you may be in the 40-50% power range of the Bluetooth devices we have today.
And will early solutions require more than one radio to enable Bluetooth plus Wibree?
The Bluetooth SIG is going to publish specifications for both single mode and dual mode devices. The single mode devices are the sensor type devices, the watch type devices, where the dual mode device is one that can communicate with traditional Bluetooth devices as well as the new ultra-low power. Examples of that will be a mobile phone and a personal computer. And the Bluetooth SIG will promote and publish the specifications for both types of devices.
What is the Bluetooth SIG's goal in terms of a cost up to add Wibree functionality?
We envision it being very minor, that the addition to a Bluetooth chipset today will be very small. And so our goal is that you're in the nickel to 10 cent additional cost to add Wibree capability to what you'd consider a traditional Bluetooth radio.
It's early days, but do you have any forecasts or projections for Wibree attach rates?
It is very early, and the forecasts tend to be a little bit optimistic sometimes and maybe not correct all the times either. And the Bluetooth SIG as such has not done any studies on this. However, in our press release we have a quote from ABI Research, which have guessed on volumes for ultra-low power. And their assumptions is that around 2012 there will be in excess of 800 or actually 840 million ultra-low power chipsets, which is substantial volume, obviously.
Adding Wibree functionality will enable a whole raft of new applications. How will you educate consumers about these new applications and how to use them?
The Bluetooth SIG will use its means of communication to the consumer, such as our .com website, our media relations program, where we have a lot of communication with the consumer media, with the industrial media, etc. But maybe the main way of communicating to consumers is through our members. Our members that's actually selling products and educating the consumers on how to use them and how Bluetooth will actually work. That is, I think, the key to really get the message across. So we will work closely with them also to help them or to have a unified message and a way of doing the education properly.
How will the SIG handle new industries that are now interested in ultra-low power Bluetooth, such as the toy and medical industries? Do you have specific programs in mind?
For industries that really want to get together and standardize a Bluetooth solution, then we can create a work group and allow them to do that. For example, we have a medical work group already in place that's working on how to best enable medical applications over Bluetooth. With the introduction of Wibree into the Bluetooth SIG, we've expanded the scope of that work group such that they can leverage the ultra-low power radio in their solutions.
With Wibree and ultra-wideband effectively bracketing Bluetooth now, with ultra-low power at one end and high-speed Bluetooth at the other, is this the end to the expansion of Bluetooth, or will we see further developments?
Clearly it's not the end, that we're really just beginning. With the inclusion of Wibree now, the solution space that Bluetooth is applicable obviously grows quite a bit, but our vision for Bluetooth is that any devices that a consumer wants to connect within their wireless personal area network will be enabled by a Bluetooth solution. We have a huge number of devices now or applications that fall within that space, but clearly over time what our members want to do, what consumers want to do with the technology will continue to grow, and we'll have to continually address those needs. So while it's a huge addition now, I don't see it as being the end either.
You've been talking to media and analysts. What sort of reaction have you been getting to the Bluetooth and Wibree announcement?
So far, everyone that we've spoken to has been very positive and sees it as an excellent step for the Bluetooth SIG and for Wibree technology also. I've also had the opportunity to speak with many of our members about this merger as well, and they've been very excited also to be able to participate in the work groups, drive the technology to completion, and then of course build products based upon the resulting specifications.
And actually it's not too often you hear analysts saying wow, but we heard that a few times, which is very encouraging.
Indeed.
Well, you've been involved in Bluetooth since the very early days, Anders, and managing the development of the brand. Does this announcement of the merger with Wibree mean that you have to start the marketing machine up again?
Yes, in a way it does, but I think the situation now is obviously quite different from what it was in '98 when we announced Bluetooth the first time. Then it was just an idea basically, and there wasn't any products on the market. Today we have, for example, in the UK, a astounding success rate when it comes to awareness, 96%. So obviously the situation is much, much easier now. We don't need to educate consumers on what Bluetooth as such is. We just need to educate them on new possibilities with the technology, and might I say, so very exciting possibilities.
Harry, why do we need Wibree, and why did Nokia set out on its own, initially at least, to develop the standard?
That's a good question, because rather we would not have developed a new technology of our own. The fact is that since the early introduction of Bluetooth, it's been evident that there's also a need for specific ultra-low power technology and capability to address some connectivity challenges of very small devices. And the fact being that there were no, and actually not even today, before this announcement, there is no standardized open ultra-low power solution. So we as a company that is really counting on open standards rather than proprietary technologies, it was important that we can have one. So we decided to create it, and actually not to keep it only to ourselves, but really to make it a de facto standard in one way or another.
What was the thinking behind merging Wibree with the Bluetooth specification?
I would say that this is a natural second step in our approach. We wanted to create a de facto standard, and we know that the drawbacks of de facto coupled to certain companies would have prevented very wide adoption and acceptance in the industry. So for both technical reasons and also the strength of Bluetooth SIG, of course, made it quite obvious that that would be ideal solution to combine these two technologies together.
And was this the plan from the start, or were there other options?
I'd say that it was an option from the start, but we were also committed to make this happen even if it wouldn't have been possible. We are extremely happy that it turned out to be possible, because this will be so much more powerful solution for the whole industry.
Could you talk us through the likely applications for Wibree and whether this has evolved since it was first conceived?
We are not competing with the existing Bluetooth cases, like audio streaming or data transfer with high volumes, high speed. That's actually excluded from Wibree scope of applications. So one could say that the natural devices and applications in this arena are typically sensor applications, watch products, wrist-worn products, and so forth.
What about power consumption for Wibree devices? What were your goals?
Rather than referring to any electrical parameters here, I would like to refer to battery life. And clearly our target here was to reach the point of plus 1 year. This plus 1 year comes from watch industry as a minimum requirement, and this also has to do with the button cell battery operated devices in general. I would also still want to highlight that still it doesn't necessarily have to be plus 1 year in each and every application. We will certainly see applications where the battery life will be several months, and it's still perceived to be sufficient and satisfactory for the consumer point of view. At the same time, there will be certainly applications where the battery life will be, say, 5 years or even more. So it's very dependent on application.
Okay, what developments have taken place since the announcement in October last year? In other words, where is Wibree today in terms of technical developments and the standard?
I'd say that the group of companies, in total 12 companies, who have been working on the interoperability specification, have been very productive in the past few months. Today, we are in a position where, using the Bluetooth SIG maturity coding for the releases, I would say that the core specification for the ultra-low power is somewhere between 07 and 09. So actually ready to be presented to the Bluetooth SIG committees in the near future. In the profiles, which in a way always follow the radio specification, we are somewhere in the level of approaching 05 level. And the three profiles that we have been working on are the human interface device profile, watch profile, and the sensor profile. And all these are in existence today.
The performance target at the outset was 1 megabit per second over a distance of 10 meters. Is that still the case?
This is unchanged, and the recent development or specification has not indicated any need to change that. And at the same time, of course, you notice that these parameters are equal to Bluetooth SIG parameters. I think that's already as such is a value of its own. And I'd also like to add that 1 megabit per second as such is more than adequately for those applications that we are after. So we could do with much less.
Has the core group of Wibree companies expanded, and what level of industry support does Wibree have today?
Yes, I'm happy to inform that actually, especially the Bluetooth chip vendor cluster has been increased and has been growing in Wibree initiative. Texas Instruments and ST Microelectronics joined the initiative a few months ago, thus making, from a chip vendor point of view, this very representing situation at the moment. All the four big ones are with us. The same thing has happened with the watch cluster. So Casio from Japan joined our initiative at year end, and making our watch cluster even stronger. Additionally, we have a group of companies who have already agreed to join the ultra-low power working groups under Bluetooth SIG once we get there.
Did Nokia have a target for a cost up to add Wibree to an existing Bluetooth solution?
From Nokia point of view, and now Nokia to be seen as a mobile handset manufacturer, this is a crucial success factor. We wanted to avoid, technically, first of all, we wanted to avoid introducing a new radio. And with this solution, we can run ultra-low power with the Bluetooth radio. That's the technical benefit, and it has to be accompanied also with the very low limited cost. And it seems to us that based on our partners' indications that we are talking about just a few cents additional price on the dual mode chips.
Has the timeline changed since the October announcement? We were told to expect first silicon by the second half of 2007.
From that point of view, I think that it's still realistic to assume that the first prototype chips will be available during the second half of this year. However, as announced today, the first official ratified Bluetooth specification for ultra-low power is scheduled to be out during the first half of next year. I think this additional time is needed in order to guarantee multi-party interoperability, and as such, a few months additional time is well spent investment.
Now that Wibree is to be merged into Bluetooth, will Nokia continue to develop Wibree separate to the Bluetooth SIG or encourage others to do so?
With this agreement with Bluetooth SIG, we definitely agree that after the announcement, all the development of this ultra-low power technology will take place within Bluetooth SIG. However, Nokia will certainly continue to support promotion of this technology in various forms. One of them is that we have agreed that Nokia is actually chairing some of the working groups, and we are going to have our representatives in most of the working groups in ultra-low power area. And of course, we are going to use this technology in our products in the future.
And the question everybody wants an answer to, when will we first see Wibree in a Nokia phone and perhaps in other devices?
I hope I could tell you that, but unfortunately I'm not in a position to comment on individual products' availability. However, I can tell you that actually already in October last year we launched a technology platform program that is aiming at integrating Wibree technology and now Bluetooth ultra-low power technology into our mobile phone platforms. And once the platforms can offer the ultra-low power support, then the next phase will be introducing of the products, but that remains to be decided by the respective business units of Nokia.